Power is the oldest game. For 3,000 years, in courts, in camps, in marble halls, the same moves have won, and the same mistakes have destroyed. Robert Greene collected its rules into 48 laws. Learn them to play, or learn them to defend yourself. Because whether you like it or not, you are already on the board. Law 1. Never outshine the master. Make those above you feel superior. In 1661, Minister Nicolas Fouquet threw a fate more dazzling than his king. Louis XIV smiled that evening and jailed him for life. Shine, but never brighter than the throne. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Friends betray out of envy. A former enemy must prove himself. Emperor Michael III raised his dearest friend Basil from the stables to the palace. Basil thanked him with assassins. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. Keep them off balance and in the dark. In 1850, Bismarck, Prussia's fiercest hawk, stunned Parliament by preaching peace with Austria. He needed time. 16 years later, he crushed her in 7 weeks. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. The more you say, the more common you appear, and the more likely you are to say something foolish. Louis XIV ruled Europe's grandest court with 3 words: I shall see. Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. The story goes that Zhuge Liang, hopelessly outnumbered, flung open the city gates and calmly played his lute upon the wall. His enemy, fearing the trap that legend promised, turned and fled. Law 6. Court attention at all cost. Everything is judged by appearance, and the unseen count for nothing. P.T. Barnum answered every attack on his hoaxes by selling more tickets. Be slandered. Be denounced. Never be ignored. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Use the wisdom and the legwork of other men. Edison's laboratory ran on other men's sleepless nights. History engraved a single name. Your hands need never show. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. The one who moves first surrenders control. In 1870, Bismarck sharpened a single telegram until it stung, and France, enraged, declared the very war he wanted. His enemy marched to him. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Told the nose of his David was too large, Michelangelo climbed the scaffold, let a handful of hidden dust fall, and changed nothing. Perfect, declared the critic. Show, don't argue. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Misery spreads like plague. The dancer Lola Montez attached herself to the King of Bavaria. Within 2 years, the scandals that followed her had cost him his throne. Associate with the fortunate. Flee the drowning. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. The story goes that a king, tired of his astrologer, demanded the man predict his own death. The reply: I shall die exactly 3 days before your majesty. The king guarded that life like his own. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. The conman Victor Lustig borrowed $50,000 from Al Capone and returned every bill untouched. Capone, moved by such honesty, rewarded him on the spot. The realtake was trust. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. Besieged Corcyra came to Athens without tears. It offered its navy. Athens said yes to the fleet, not to the plea. Gratitude is a phantom. Interest is real. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Every dinner is reconnaissance. The art dealer Joseph Devine quietly paid the butlers of millionaires. By the time he met a client, he knew the man's tastes better than the man did. Smile, ask, listen, and map. Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. A wounded enemy heals into a patient one. At the feast at Han Gate, the warlord Xiang Yu spared his rival Liu Bang. Liu Bang did not return the courtesy. He took the empire and Xiang Yu's life. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. What is everywhere is worthless. What withdraws begins to gleam. Dioses the Mede made himself unreachable behind 7 walls, and the harder he was to see, the more godlike he became. Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Patterns hand others your leash. In Reykjavik, Bobby Fischer arrived late, protested everything, played moves that looked like blunders, and the world champion unraveled, hunting for logic that was never there. Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. China's first emperor hid so deep inside his palaces that when he died on the road, his courtiers ruled in his name for weeks, masking the smell of the corpse with carts of rotting fish. Law 19. Know who you are dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. Some men swallow an insult, wait, and bury you. The Shah of Khwarezm mocked Genghis Khan's envoys and executed his ambassador. The Khan erased his empire from the map. Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. The uncommitted hold the balance of power. Elizabeth I dangled her hand before France and Spain for 30 years and married no one. Both courted, neither dared strike. Desire is leverage. Possession ends it. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Vanity is a sedative. Claudius stammered and drooled through the terrors of Caligula's court. Harmless, they laughed. Every schemer above him died. The idiot became emperor of Rome. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. When you cannot win, bow and buy time. King Gojin served his conqueror as a stable groom for 3 years. Then he went home, slept on brushwood, tasted gall each morning, and burned the kingdom of Wu to the ground. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. Intensity defeats extensity. Napoleon won an empire with one idea: mass everything against the enemy's weakest point at the decisive hour. Scattered strength is weakness wearing a crown. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. Power lives in courts, and courts run on grace. Talleyrand bowed to the revolution, to Napoleon, to the restored kings, flattering, indirect, indispensable to each, and died in his own bed, rich at 84. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Refuse the role you were born into. Aurora Dupin renamed herself George Sand. The trousers, the cigars, the scandal, and Paris could not look away. Be the sculptor, not the marble. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. Cesare Borgia sent Ramiro da Orco to pacify the Romagna by cruelty, then had him cut in two and displayed in the piazza. The people's rage died with the servant. The prince remained spotless. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe, to create a cult-like following. Franz Mesmer set the aristocrats of Paris in tubs of magnetized water, ritual, mystery, promises, and they swooned on cue. Offer a faith, keep it vague, and they will build your altar. Law 28. Enter action with boldness. Hesitation is contagious, but so is audacity. Escaped from Elba, Napoleon walked alone toward the muskets sent to arrest him. Soldiers, will you fire on your emperor? They carried him back to Paris. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. The ending is everything. By 1808, Talleyrand, Napoleon's own foreign minister, was quietly briefing the Tsar, positioning himself for a fall he saw 6 years away. He retired untouched. His master died in exile. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Conceal the sweat. Houdini trained underwater for thousands of hours so audiences would see only a miracle. The Renaissance had a word for it: sprezzatura, the art that hides the art. Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. In 1564, Ivan the Terrible abandoned Moscow and offered the nobles a choice: rule the chaos alone, or beg him back with absolute power. They begged. Every card on the table was his. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. Never appeal to truth unless you can beat the dream. Venice, bankrupt and nostalgic for gold, showered the alchemist Bragadino with fortunes because he promised to multiply them. The truth teller starves. The dream seller dines. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Everyone has a lever, an insecurity, a hunger, a secret pleasure. Devine sold paintings by selling immortality. He found each tycoon's hidden ache, and priced it in millions. Find the thumb. Turn the screw. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. Columbus, a weaver's son, negotiated with monarchs as an equal, demanding titles no commoner dared name. They granted them. The world takes you at your own valuation. Law 35. Master the art of timing. Never seem in a hurry. Hurry betrays you. Joseph Fouché outlasted every French regime by striking only when the fruit was ripe. He helped topple Robespierre the very night before Robespierre would have taken his head. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. What you chase, you elevate. Pancho Villa raided one American town, and the 10,000-man expedition that failed to catch him turned a bandit into a legend. Contempt starves. Attention feeds. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. Words are suspect. Images enter the soul unopposed. Louis XIV turned his every sunrise into theater. Courtiers competed for the honor of watching the king wake. Versailles was not a palace. It was a stage. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others. The philosopher Campanella, broken by the Inquisition, learned to publish orthodoxy on the surface and heresy between the lines, and so outlived his inquisitors. Blend outwardly. Differ inwardly. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Anger is a puppet string. In 1809, Napoleon screamed at Talleyrand, "You are filth in silk stockings," while the minister stood politely bored. Within days, Europe whispered which of the two was finished. Make them boil. Stay ice. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. What comes free carries a hidden price. Obligation, guilt, or a hook. Every confidence game begins with the mark's hunger for something for nothing. The powerful pay gladly, and pay well. Generosity, displayed, is power displayed. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. What follows greatness always looks small. Alexander refused to refight his father Philip's wars. He crossed into Asia, where no Macedonian king had gone, and made the old glory look provincial. Change direction. Shine alone. Law 42. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter. Trouble has a source, one stirring hand, one irreplaceable head. Athens kept a special ballot for such men, ostracism. 10 years exile for the agitator, and the faction he fed dissolved like smoke. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. Coercion creates rebels. Seduction creates believers. Napoleon remembered his veterans' names, tugged their ears at the campfire, and men marched into Russian snow for him. When the heart and the hands follow. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Alcibiades out-Spartaned the Spartans, black broth and cold baths, then out-Persianed the Persians in silk. Each saw themselves in him. Each handed him power. No one strikes his own reflection. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Augustus buried the Roman Republic while restoring its every ritual, the Senate, the elections, the temples, and himself as merely first citizen. Wrap the new in the flags of the old. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Envy is the enemy that never declares itself. Walter Raleigh was soldier, poet, scientist, explorer, favorite, flawless, and the court's quiet envy followed him all the way to the scaffold. Confess a harmless vice. Give envy nothing to eat. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. In 1866, with Vienna open before his victorious army, Bismarck refused to take it. He would need Austria neutral one day. For years later, that restraint built Germany. Stop. Exactly. There. Law 48. Assume formlessness. The rigid are broken, the fluid endure. Rome could not outfight Hannibal, so Fabius refused to be graspable. No battles, no pattern, nothing to strike. The greatest general of his age wore himself out punching fog. Be water. 48 laws. One game, older than every crown it has toppled. Use them as weapons, or wear them as armor. Study the board, watch the players, and never again pretend the game is not being played.